Welcome back, guys. In this video, I want to talk about how my insecurity made me afraid of women and how I overcame this, how I overcame my insecurities and became smooth with women. So the story of my insecurity really began when I was like 11 or 12 and I had just entered middle school. And when I went to school, I noticed that all the kids around me, they had these nice Nike Elite socks. I don't know if you know what those are, but that was like the cool trend at the time. They had all these nice Nike clothes, they had all these cool bracelets. And me, I came to school wearing some like ugly cargo shorts, some like old Converse sneakers, and like none of this cool stuff that I saw everybody around me. So this made me think in my mind that I was poor, when in reality I wasn't poor at all. You know, my dad, he had just got out of the army, like did a couple tours overseas. My mom was a school teacher. We had a pretty nice house, actually. We had a pretty average size house, and I had two brothers. You know, we weren't poor at all. We were basically just middle class. But because all these kids around me had all the nicer stuff, it made me feel really bad about myself. So I started to get really insecure and I started to get really shy and quiet at school. Um, when that kind of changed a little bit is when I met my friend Jordan. See, Jordan was like a really outgoing kid. He was kind of everything that I wasn't. I was really shy. He was really outgoing, confident. He didn't really care. Always playing jokes, always messing around. And so one day I went over to Jordan's house and I was really surprised about what I saw. You see, Jordan lived in a very, not nice house in a not very good area. The yard was all ripped up. The house was like very small. I went in on the inside. I mean, there's like 6 or 7 people living in this kind of little tiny cramped house. Didn't smell very good. He didn't really have a very nice interior. And so that was the first thing that really changed my perspective and made me grateful. You know, before I was comparing myself to all these other people, I didn't realize all the people who had it much worse than me. So that was the first thing that really gave me some perspective, which I think is important when you're looking at like your insecurities. So, but like anybody else, that wasn't all my insecurities. I still had more. So fast forward to kind of like about when I'm like 18 years old. Back when I was 18 years old, and I managed to get this girlfriend who was pretty hot at the time actually, met her through a mutual friend. And I told her another one of my insecurities that, I always had growing up was my teeth. Because my younger brother has straight teeth, my older brother got braces. I never got braces. And even though my teeth aren't like completely messed up, I was busy comparing my teeth to everybody around me. So that was another big insecurity for me. So like I said, I had this girlfriend at the time and I told her, I said, I've been like insecure about my teeth. What do you think? And she was like, what do you mean, Joseph? Your teeth are fine. And so that, I was like, huh, really? And so I started to think about that for a little bit. And I wanted to see if that was true. So I asked my younger brother, I was like, what do you think about my teeth? I think my teeth are ugly. And he starts laughing at me. And so I realized like nobody cared. I thought this whole time everybody had this kind of like conspiracy about me. That's, the ugly teeth kid. The whole time nobody cared. It was about, my personality that I brought to the table. At the time I was pretty insecure. So another thing that I had was my car. If you're around like rich kids and they're all, driving like brand new freaking cars, you can get pretty insecure if you're driving like a 2006 older car. And so I thought my car was shit and I was insecure about this. And so I tell this to my girlfriend at the time and she's like, Joseph, you have a pretty cool car. And I was like, oh, really? And that was another eye opener. All this time throughout my childhood, throughout my teenage years, I had, a few insecurities that I thought everybody cared about. But in reality, nobody did. So this is what made me realize that your perception is what shapes your reality. However you view the world, the lens through which you view the world, it's not always true. you have to really examine these things. So fast forward about a year or so now. I'm 19 and I'm working in door-to-door sales with the goal of overcoming my social anxiety just by brute force. And one day, I'm driving in the car with one of the older managers who's like 28 because we all drive in cars on the way to the neighborhoods. And I say to him, I'm like, hey man, today I'm feeling like really not confident in myself because I had spilled something on my shirt. So I had like a stain on my shirt. I had forgotten to shave the night before, so I was a bit scruffy. Felt a bit like dirty and unclean. So I tell him this. I'm like, man, I'm just not feeling good today, man. I'm feeling off. And he said something which I'll absolutely never forget that changed my life. He looked at me, he said, Joe, you could be wearing a freaking propeller hat and you can knock on these doors and you can make some sales. Joe, it doesn't matter what you look like. If you don't care about these imperfections, then nobody else does. And that really was like a key that unlocked this old dusty vault for me that I had kind of covered with moss for years. And so most guys that I've worked with have had at least one major imperfection or insecurity that really held back their confidence with women. And whether it's, oh, I'm too short, or I'm a minority, or I'm balding, or even I'm too tall, like it's endless. What I want these men to realize is that confidence in game really overshadows these imperfections in the eyes of women. Like, let's look at Joey Diaz, for example. If you don't know him, he's like a really popular comedian who's been on Joe Rogan a lot. That's the only reason I know him, right? But, this guy, he does something that 97% of the population can't do, which is to get on stage, be funny, be really confident, and tell jokes and make people laugh. Meanwhile, this guy is, very unhealthy. He's pretty obese. He doesn't look the best. And he's not a perfect looking dude. He's not a perfect dude. But, this confidence, this ability to make people laugh, it overshadows these imperfections. Like, nobody cares that Joey Diaz is ugly, right? Because of the value that he brings to the table. Now, what I'm not saying is that you should neglect your fitness or you should neglect working on the things that make you more attractive. I mean, being fit is more attractive than not, right? But the way I overcame my insecurities is by attacking the shit that I could change and owning the shit that I couldn't change. Like, yes, I get it. I have a weird rib cage that sticks out on the bottom. I don't have like perfect teeth. I don't have like a crazy extrovert personality even, believe it or not. But I guarantee I can name you 72 other things that I do have value in, that I do bring to the table. There's the Joe Rogan experience. I give women the Joseph Smith experience. And as cocky as this sounds, I view myself as a gift to women. I understand the value that I bring to the table. Like, literally think about all the things that you could provide to a woman. There's probably so many things that overshadow the insecurities and that you've probably never even thought about because you're too busy with that negative talk and you're too busy allowing your brain to basically shit on yourself. Now, overcoming my insecurities, it did take me a while. Because think about it, my brain had been in this negative thought loop for however long I've existed. And so you're not just gonna like flip a switch and have some magic moment where everything changes. Now you might, but that's just not how it worked for me. So every time these insecurities would come up in my mind, I would just consciously tell myself to fuck off. I would tell the thought to fuck off, I mean. And then whenever I did anything good in my life, say I like read a book, I would congratulate myself for that. I would start rewarding myself for doing good things, actually. I wasn't doing that in the past. All I was doing was focusing on the negative, being a super perfectionist, and not giving myself any credit. And I learned this when I read Jordan Peterson's 10 Rules for Life. He says, you should treat yourself like somebody you cared about. And that kind of really struck a chord with me because I hadn't been in the past. I was treating myself like an asshole. Like, I never treated anybody else this way, but I was talking to myself this way. And then the insecurities that I could change, I attacked. So for example, I was insecure because I didn't have good social skills. I wasn't good at talking to women. I couldn't even look them in the eye. So the way I overcame this is, like I said earlier, I got into door-to-door sales. I did that for 4 months, just knocking on doors all freaking day long. And that pretty much did the trick for me. Then I literally hired a coach. Like I hired a coach to teach me how to talk to women, to teach me how to level up my game, because I wanted to condense the time that it took. I wanted to hear from an expert. And the next really huge mental unlock that I had that allowed me to overcome my insecurity with women is realizing that women have just as many imperfections. They have just as much insecurity as guys, if not even more. And I'm saying even the most attractive, even the most confident appearing women that you see on the street, a lot of them are hiding something. A lot of them are. And this is especially true when it comes to appearances. Women are especially insecure about their appearances. Needs to be on point. This is why a lot of them have like eating disorders in high school, why they get Botox injections, why they get fake boobs and edit all their pictures. This is really huge for women. And so realizing this and realizing that women aren't this, pedestalized magical creature, it helped me level with them more. It helped me to realize they're human and not get so stressed out about my own imperfections. I could be fucked up in some ways, and I guarantee most women are fucked up in more. So I'm not pedestalizing women. I'm talking to them like they're anybody else. I'm talking to them like I literally already slept with 1,000 women who look identically like them. And so this really allows me to be confident, to not be so focused on myself. Women really like being in the presence of that masculine, confident energy of guys who just really accept themselves. It's like charisma kind of in a way. So have you ever been around somebody who just makes you feel good for just being around them? So for me, that like a good example of that was my high school principal. This was a guy with so much charisma. Everybody just loved being around him. They wanted to keep talking with him because just talking to this guy, it made your day better. Like it made you feel more confident. And this is how you want women to feel around you. So the other end of the spectrum is you've probably been around someone who made you feel like shit for just being around them. Like this person was probably always very negative and self-pity, and it just gave you like this gross feeling. That's not what you want to be around women, obviously. So by overcoming my insecurities and improving my game simultaneously, I noticed that women started to be more open around me. They started to let their guard down, and I could tell that they enjoyed my presence. Like, it felt good just to be around me. But I definitely can't take all the credit for getting to the point where I am with women all by myself. Like, I couldn't have done it myself. It probably would have taken like half a decade or more of me just trying to reinvent the wheel all by myself. So instead, I read, a bunch of psychology, and I worked with specialists, coaches, whose, sole mission in life was to help men reach their full potential with women. Guys, if you want to fast track your success in dating and you want the ability to skillfully attract new women into your life, I'm accepting a few new clients right now who work with me directly. If so, I put a link in the description where you can book a discovery call with me, and I'll see if you're a good fit for the program. Would love to work with you, and remember, keep taking action. Remember to have fun.